Hello, everyone. Sorry I can't be with you in real time, but I hope this is useful. I'd like to share with you some results of research that I did for my PhD dissertation on the link between urban form and greenhouse gas emissions. Now, obviously, this is one key aspect of the larger climate change issue, and that in turn has some other lessons for other kinds of urban challenges we face as well, as I noted in the research. Things like how do we measure, how do we predict, how do we respond, what actions do we take, what tools do we use, and in the case of climate change in particular, what's the link between adapting to the results and mitigating and reducing the results? And it turns out to be a close one, as my research showed. Now, the headline of the research is what you see here from the Delft website. Actually, that figure was quite conservative, but it also masks the larger question, what did I mean by sprawl? And let me be clear, I was not just talking about low density. Rather, I was speaking about a specific kind of disordered urbanism, which has become the norm in our time. It's brought a lot of benefits, economic development, bringing people out of poverty in China and so on, but also a lot of negative challenges, as we know. You can have high density sprawl, say if you have a bunch of skyscrapers, offices way over here, and a bunch of residential skyscrapers way over there. Not only the energy from all the transportation between them, many other factors, as my research showed. So what the research shows in a nutshell is that urban form does have an enormous impact. When you tease out all the other factors, it's very difficult to explain, for example, this six-fold increase in per capita greenhouse gas emissions from a citizen of Stockholm to an average American resident, apart from the very different urban forms surrounding them. And of course, the very different lifestyle and consumption patterns that environment affords. And indeed, when you tease out the factors, urban density is strongly correlated with emissions per capita from transportation and other sources. And that's logical when you think about just bringing things closer together and reducing the energy expended to move around and so on. And you do see an inverse relationship in places like the Bay Area between density and greenhouse gas emissions. There's high density, low emissions, low density, high emissions. But it's not only the density, it's also the other urban morphology aspects. And these have to be unpacked and understood as part of a system of interaction. For example, the familiar things like mix of uses, walkability, multimodal, compact housing typologies, and so on, which you see in the lower emissions area of San Francisco or the higher emissions area where you don't have those factors. You have functional segregation, monomodal, car dependent, unwalkable, large housing typologies, and so on. I also found that one of the most important factors that's not well accounted for is the influence of neighborhood structure on patterns of behavior and consumption, what behavioral economists refer to as the choice architecture. You can see that the choices for consumption and the resulting emissions rates are going to be very different in the drive-through environment in San Antonio, say, on the left, than they are in the walkable and bikeable neighborhood of Amsterdam on the right, not only from transportation, but from many other related activities. Of course, it's one thing to recognize these differences and another to shift our existing and future environments in that direction. So we have to ask ourselves, what are the tools and strategies that we need? Well, a part of my research was to develop a prototype scenario modeling tool that would allow urban designers and community members to more accurately understand the implications of different urban designs for, in this case, greenhouse gas emissions, as well as for other externalities, as they're called. And it uses the pattern language methodology that I think many of you are familiar with, as well as a new wiki format that allows new forms of modeling. Anyway, if you're interested, you can find more by Googling Mehaffy Delft Sprawl, and that will take you to the university site. But I think for climate change and other urban issues, we need new tools to change what we might think of as the operating system for growth. And this system is very frustrating, and it seems like it doesn't change, but actually that's not true. It's changing all the time. It's always been changing, and people in our movement are changing it. And the only question is whether we're going to get smarter about how to do that, and whether we're going to get the new tools and strategies that we need. Thank you.